Welcome to Mereak Firmaxe Rebuilds Moria. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe below. Episode 7, Building the Ale House from Scratch. Welcome to another Adventures of Mereak Firmaxe Rebuilds Moria. Today we'll be looking at what I call the Ale House, which is the model building you see behind me. This again is from a world that was created during version 1.0 of the game, and it has been upgraded to version 1.3.4. This model was greatly simplified and reduced in later versions of the game, and I wanted to give a quick tour of the model up front. The last video I did showed the model after, and so it was hard, or in the middle, and it was hard to compare. I'm gonna clean up a little bit of it and repair some just so we can see what's happening. Now when I build the models, I'm not going to use the wood on the outside like the lamps and so on. That's decorative later, and I'm pretty sure people know how to put lamps on the outside of buildings. So unless wood's a major factor on the outside of aesthetics, I'm not going to try to replicate that. Inside, however, as you'll see with this model, I will be. Now, this building is raised, so you'll notice that there is a set of stairs that was in the room, and then there's a set of stairs into the building itself. The building's raised one adamant block high, and we will be replicating that. Of course, this building is still sealed, and I broke open the door and tried to clean it out a little bit before I started filming this. Otherwise there'd be a bunch of junk in here. Now there is a raised center dais where the bar was. I accidentally hit the bar and destroyed it. That was unfortunate. Scaling's a little off. Some of these buildings were built with different size blocks than we have, and of course there are some things missing, like that parquet floor doesn't exist, and some of the blocks here don't exist in the game as well. But I did the best I could to replicate it. Again, it's not going to be perfect. I'm not going for perfect. I want to preserve the aesthetic of the building in the new game, not equalize it block for block. It's not an equal comparison. I like this ale hall. You can put a large brew tank up here. You can put the little ones downstairs. Lots of tables and seating, and three levels. The outside is particularly nice. When you look up, there's an overhang, a very pronounced roof, which I'll try to experiment with. And look, if you're watching these videos and you're like, I don't have that block in my world because it's not an older world, or I don't like the way that roof looks, then change it. The flexibility of the game is huge, and it's very stable now. A lot of folks are like, oh, I don't like building because it was so unstable in earlier versions and there's bugs or whatever. I really don't experience that anymore, particularly after 1.3.4. It is incredibly solid, the building system. There are a few minor things about having the right perspective and angle of clicking the blocks together. Auto snapping doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to wiggle the block a little bit, but I don't think that's different than a lot of games that allow you to do complex building like this. So, not to mention, the graphics look awesome. Now I'm recording in 4K. I'm trying to do 60 frames a second. Most of my older videos are 30, but I upgraded my video card for my birthday in the middle of the summer, and I'm like, yeah, I reinstalled Windows recently, and I'll try this out, and we'll see how it goes. You can let me know in the comments. I regularly, by the way, get above 120 frames a second. Unfortunately, my monitor only does 120 frames a second in 4K, and so I set my frame rate at 117, 3 lower than the 120, which is what they tell you to do when you set up your NVIDIA graphics card. And if you're having issues with your graphics, I highly recommend reading some tutorials about optimizing, because this game does support DLSS, and the upscaling is awesome. And I regularly play in 4K all the time, and I keep it on the highest quality settings continuously. So as I said, the parquet floor is not available in the game. You'll also notice at the bottom of the wall you see the hints of an embedded wooden pillar. Those were for, I broke open one of these buildings once, those were for inside the wall. You can see the arches, the wooden arches at the top of the ceiling. You see it in the upper left hand corner behind the mini-map here. Those pieces are separate now. You don't have to put a whole pillar in the wall just for that. So we will be paying attention to those details. Also, the wooden posts and those things now provide solid load. I think the posts always provided load, but the lattice work also provides load support now. Didn't do an experiment of how much load support, but it seemed like all the wood was about the same. I'm going to not use the central pillar there. I think it looks out of place. I'm going to use wooden pillars. The corner of that stair is not available in the game, so we will make sure to use something else. So this platform here is about a half block height, and I'll show you a trick for doing that. Also, this archway is a fantastic place to put one of those second tier hearts in. Sorry, I muted the sound here. Didn't want to interrupt. Anyway, so we'll be able to put a small hearth in here, and that's a perfect place to put that. Some of the ribbing, which you can see bleeding through that outside wall, does not exist in the game, or never has. It's on a few pieces individually, but never individually placeable. So we won't be able to accomplish that. Let's take a quick look upstairs. Taking a few notes. This is a 1 block high set of stairs here. Now these stairs don't exist in the game, but there is something very close, so we'll be doing that instead. Sorry, some of the pauses I'm using to sketch things out. Try to remember where the lattice work is. There's a long enough stair to do this whole 2-story staircase now. Those smaller windows there, there's a smaller set that's too wide. That doesn't exist and never has in the game. We'll try to match the woodwork in here as close as we can. It is a complex model. Don't kid yourself, this one is one of the most complex. Some of the wood lined walls in here exist, some do not. I might change it up a little bit. Little bleed through in the roof of the roof pieces. I'm gonna do something to try to avoid that. I don't like that. I will do the ceiling wood inlay though. I think that looks nice. Wish I could carry the Xeric torches the same time as the pick. I'll probably put a wood floor down there. I don't want to leave it the exposed adamant. Get a quick view up here. Nice bay area. You could put a couple tables up there. It is a nice model, particularly if you have a couple of brew tanks in here. I don't like the green next to the other wood directly. I mean, above it's fine, but I'll probably settle on the green or the mahogany looking wood. Yeah, I think that's about enough. Take a couple last notes here. Give me a moment and then we'll get started. Just making some final notes like those red pieces up above to fill the gaps. Don't know if they provide support. It would be convenient if they did, but they don't exist in the game, so it doesn't matter. Looks like they overlap some wooden and adamant up there, or wooden stone. Don't know why they did that. Seems like overkill. I'll avoid doing that as well. Alright, well, I'll edit this part and we'll go to the build area. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add on to this foundation. Obviously I built the other building. I haven't torn it down yet, but I will, just to reclaim the resources. I might take copies of this world every time and save them off in case someone wants to see them or I ever want to reload them. There's a lack of large build areas in the game where you can just go wild with massive open builds. In fact, this type of thing doesn't even exist in Sandbox. Though now that I understand the limitations of the build system, I know why they're simplifying the models and limiting the build environments to something a little more manageable. The number of pieces that build off of one another, that need support off of one another, adds quite a level of complexity and performance issues to manage in the build system. So, as far as I could tell, the way the system works, and I've said this before, but I'll repeat it. The build system itself, every piece has a weight, like that represents its physical weight, and an amount of support that it grants both horizontally and vertically. And so when pieces are connected, anything in a matrix under that piece must give the proper level of support for the pieces above it, or if it's extended out without support, it has a maximum support or tensile strength, as it were, on its own. So just going to reposition some of these lights, and then my work lights. Trying to extend my build area a little bit, but I also like having the work lights providing. And get this box here so I can extend. in between builds, I will leave this foundation here. Alright, now here's a clean build environment, kind of like a flat floor you'd find anywhere in the dungeon. See the previous inn that I did. Now we'll do the ale house. Ale house is 4 1/3 standard 3-length blocks, so 13 by 13 single blocks footprint, and it is on a raised platform. And so we will build a raised platform similar to the one we saw, and then fill it with adamant to give it a rock solid foundation. I don't want to be too far away from the other building. I want to leave myself some space, but I'll put the entryway toward the hearth. So bear with me as I lay this out. Sometimes I do sketches or notes, and of course I took this video at the start as a frame of reference, as well as a bunch of screen captures. Paying attention to lining up the intersections so they're all flat and even. That's very important, because if you start making mistakes and it's uneven at the bottom, by the time you get to the top, it's very uneven. And that is never good. I think I made a mistake already. Oh. Yeah, I forgot the half over here. Oops. Well, we'll just fix that. The hardest part to lay out is the first floor. Once that's done and you've double checked to make sure that it matches the dimensions of the model, most of the time everything else fits into place. Unless there's a very large complicated area, which can happen. I've certainly, with this model, there's a very complicated offset, upper tier, upper deck that we're going to have to watch out for. Now, in the model itself, these corner pieces don't exist that the user can place. So, because the one here in this corner is going to be hidden by the stairs, I'm just going to place that there. The other one will likely be stuck in a wall or against a wall. So make sure everything's nice and even and flush. Going to put stairs there, and I didn't want that upper lip poke through the top of the stairs. Now we'll place our adamant blocks. They changed the way adamant clicks into the system. It matches, if you see, the grid. Whereas granite fits on the line in the middle of the line. This will be that back corner where the hearth is. So I just wanted to put something here to mark it real quick. Now, you don't have to build this with this layer. I could have just started above it. Watch out for those alignments. You want nice, tight blocks. Sometimes you just gotta wiggle it a little bit and get it in there as solid as you can so it's flat. So I didn't need to do this, but because it was like that in the model, I wanted to demonstrate it. If the ground is horribly uneven, you're worried about it, this is a nice way to handle that. It pays to get different perspectives as you go along. See, I didn't see that was not in alignment until I changed my perspective. So change often, that way you don't have to destroy so much. And like I said, I'm trying to be very careful on this level because it will set the stage for level and square for the entire rest of the project. Alright. Looks pretty good. Gotta figure out how I'm gonna do this fireplace here. I wish they had a smaller stone floor that looked cobbly like the bigger one, but they don't. Sometimes pulling it back and forth will help align it. See if I can put this down and then embed the arch. That looks kind of small. Yeah, we'll see. It does not want to go flush. Got a little siege going on.
Orc filth! I will tear you down.
I don't know if I like that. Let's take care of the siege though.
We got orcs.
Before they wreck my hearth.
That is all you've got?
Oh, get away from there. I'm building that. Oh, let's repair. Oh, look at that. Oh. Goblins. Now I got wolves. Oh. Yeah. Looking at some reference pictures here that I took earlier. I'm not quite sure that that's replicated right. I realized. So there's a raised dais in the this area. That's why that archway is partially hidden. Not that it's embedded under the ground. So we need to change that. Putting down a couple of tiles for reference. Because I know the number of spaces according to my notes from that wall to where the raised portion starts. So I use these tiles sometimes to lay out the best positions to place things in. I also don't want things to bleed through. So right now I know I'm going to end up destroying the bulk of these, but I want to lay out exactly how that works. Now in the model there was a gap against that wall we saw. Oops, double click. Gotta figure out why my mouse is being so sensitive today. So sometimes after I look at the notes and I'm evaluating all this, I realize, oh well, I need to move or I need to change, or so I use the blocks themselves, since they're 3 by 3, to lay out the pattern that I'm looking for before I go farther. That was pretty sunken in there. That way I'll know that I'm solid on the ground. There is no exact match, so I'm trying to find one that's close. Again, watching the alignment for tight. That's a little out of alignment. I'll be pausing now and then to look at my notes as we continue to build this. Keeping it flush and flat. Checking my notes. Looking at some pictures. Sometimes trying to figure out how to reverse engineer these things is not simple. It's a lot of trial and error, so bear with me. I think the first 30 minutes of this video was basically looking at the old one. I have a feeling that this type of build is going to take me a solid 2 hours to get done. Something's causing this corner to be out of alignment. Yeah, you can see it right there. Always check. Different perspectives help. Let's get it set. Don't know what I'm going to do in this corner. The pieces in the actual build are not available. This is a close one, however. Sometimes the aesthetic choices are difficult, at least for me. So I'll have to experiment a little bit. That's not right. That's a bugged icon. Of course, no one's going to fix it because they've removed that corner piece from the game. Yeah. Can't figure out how to put that in there and make it look right. Maybe. Interesting. That bottom border piece, I wish there was a one wide one. Kind of like this single granite block. That'd be convenient. Alright, let's see if we can get this going. That looks a little better than on the other side. It's fighting me a little bit. Yeah. No. Let's put it on the stairs. Sometimes I'll put on a piece and use it to stop the other piece so that it's tight, and then I'll remove it. Oops. Let's put up the corner and some doors. always go along in a connected line. That way you can look at each individual joint and know that they're level and square. Much easier than going back later or placing multiple pieces that aren't in alignment, and then you end up having an issue and having to delete most of it anyway. Now window. Try to put that fireplace back. Start the platforms here. Always try to bring a good light source. How am I going to do the half? That's too close. I gotta restart this. Now, DoorDash has arrived yet again. I like the new wolf animation. Makes way more sense, actually. having a heck of a time getting this in alignment. Just before, when I took everything down, I realized that this was a floor and 1 unit high. And I didn't catch that till I looked back at the reference pictures. And that's because there's a raised portion in the actual area, central area. So a wall is normally 4 of these barriers tall, and in this building the first floor is 5 tall. So we're going to put this plain wall base all the way around. Nice and in alignment. Trying to make a taller working piece out of this. I wish they had the foot separate from the center. And that doesn't look quite right. So I'm just trying out options to see what I think will work best. Gonna make it even on all the sides. That way there's uniformity in the design. Line the exterior walls. Not so sure if plain walls is what I want long term, but we'll start there. Checking my sketch and the screen captures. Trying to find a good wall that's decorative but balanced. This, no. I want a full height wall. I guess I'll just make one. I think that piece is not in the game anymore either. That piece definitely isn't in the game anymore. That would have been so convenient if that was multiple pieces and taller. Not so sure I like this actually, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't like that. I would have used the normal height column, but these are 5 high instead of 4. Yeah, I really didn't like that. This will look much cleaner. Not so sure I like the plain wall. Put a little decoration on it. Oh, bear. -1 bear. Always make sure those joints are tight and flat in the front face. These are windows. Slightly worried about using so many pieces in its performance, but we'll see. right there. Oh no, that looks a little large. That's too short. Trying to figure out, given the notes and the pictures, what to do next. I guess I'll work on the raised bar platform. Alright. It's only supposed to be a half a height of a block high. I should be able to embed it. Use this as a marker. Just eyeballing it. Once you get one to stick, though, it should work just fine. Now we saw in the model that there was a gap in between the end of that two squares in the wall, so at least that lines up. Sometimes being behind it and changing your perspective will ease the lining of it up. That you glide a piece over the top of the other piece and it seems to stick a lot better. Hard to get things lined up all the time. just inserting the wood floor, trying to parquet it. So alternate the large ones. I guess I could have used small ones, but lining those up would have driven me insane. It's hard enough to get this stuff to line up. Gotta get it smooth. There. Wish we had the parquet floor. That floor is nice. This one I'll use to blend in. Notice I changed the orientation to match the board it was pressed up against, so it bleeds in seamlessly. I don't know why I'm putting this one here, but oh well. I need support under the floor that I'm about to put down over here.
Who gave Grismark? Go beat him up!
Trying to see the position of the stairs relative to the rest, because I knew the gap between the base of the stairs and where this bar platform started. It's probably more efficient to use the large, narrow staircase polished. Yeah. Sometimes I find it easier to make the touch-ups and adjustments, even though this block could have waited, this piece of floor, as I go. Of course, that one doesn't seem to want to work for me right now. No, too small. Nope. There we go. Maybe narrow ones. That looks right. Yep, that looks like a 3x3. There you go, that's better. I want to keep alignment to that half height level. This underlayment will support the floor because there'll be nothing for it to rest on, and because of how I assembled this, like the real life model with the adamant base, there won't be anywhere for it to grow, you know, a foundation under the wood. There we go. So you can see there'd be no support there, so I need to put support. So looking at the dots, you can align where you need to. Again, granite is on the lines of the 3x3 grid, and adamant, no, yeah, right there. Adamant is in the center of the lines. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it should get close enough to provide support anyway. I don't think this one's gonna fit. It's gonna go red. Yeah. Sometimes when things are too tight, it cannot resolve how the models would fit. I'm embedding these to give a nice flush appearance because I don't want it too high. Need some light. Let's put some stairs. Now I don't have the stairs that was actually used in the model. They're not available. Nor the end cap of the stairs. These stairs have ridges on both sides instead of being completely flat. It's unfortunate, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Just going to embed it in there. And it's just going to, it won't embed. It's going to be lipped. It's going to have a lip there. That's fine. It'll be like a hearth. You know, a mantle before the hearth, or it looks good. Now that post is one standard height, one wall, 4 barriers tall. So I'm using the lattices to do adjustments so I know where things stand. It actually helps align the posts if you do the lattices first, because they snap like barriers, and then the post will snap in between or on the ends of the lattices. It actually works pretty well as an alignment tool. Lining the tops of those up against the top of the lattice flat. Now these posts and lattices do provide support. Never did a test on how much support, but all the wood seems to have been relegated to the same strength horizontally and vertically, so I'm pretty sure that it'll be the same. These are more decorative than anything else. I don't believe they actually provide support, but I've never tested it. Now to figure out how I'm going to cover the next. Remember, these walls are 5 high instead of 4, and the posts and everything are 4 high. And so I'm using this piece of adamant to try to figure out what the spacing and alignment is. Not so sure I want to use this or not. No, this isn't going to work. You know what? I'll just raise the posts. You can put down a post and then raise it by putting those arches on the post, on the top of them. That and a little lettuce work, everything should hold up just fine. Again, watching the ends to make sure they click into place. It's easier to do the lettuces and then put those on the top because they snap. This will sit in the middle of the room. It'll provide good support. And these can be embedded in the wall. Now in the original model you saw the whole post all the way down. Don't need to do that now. So I'm looking where the cracks are in between the 3x3 panels and I'm just placing one there. That looks nice. Nice and flat, just checking everything out. Put on the rest of the stairs real quick. So everything looks in alignment from up here. And our span without support is only 2 floors. So we should be more than good to go. Now the stair's only 2 wide, so we'll fill in the gap later. I try to align the direction of the stairs or form a pattern. Sometimes getting it to snap flat is a little tricky. So there's a lot of putting the floor down and breaking it up again. Sometimes hitting G and changing your angle and perspective certainly helps. But very thin lines coming through that happens quite often. And I think it's more of a graphics anomaly than a structural issue. Patience is key. Um, it's going to happen. Your mouse sensitivity plays a role. Uh, just be patient. Work to get as close of an alignment as you can. And like I said, change perspective. Notice when I turned there, I noticed that there was a line, but when you're looking at it from a particular angle, it's hard to see. Sometimes sliding uh, the tile onto the area works to help align it too. Proper alignment not only aesthetically makes a difference, but structurally, lack of gaps can help too. Now here I just noticed that it looked correct, but I didn't notice it was getting off. And so it helps to stop, even though when you're on a roll, you're like, oh, I can get this done. This is all going so smooth, but then in hindsight, you're not on alignment. So watch for that. You can waste a lot of time like that. Just like on the model, there's a gap here, um, and then there's an overhang. So I wanted the wood to be like in the model. Sometimes you have to rotate to get the alignment right. I think I went a little too far with the overhang there, but if I have to knock a piece off later, I will. Shouldn't be bad. So here I'm just going to put up the walls, make sure they're tight, go all the way around, and it'll take a little while, but we'll get there. Sometimes putting columns on top of columns helps with alignment and snapping. So that's pretty common technique that I use. It's easier, in my opinion, to get those columns to sit right because you can see the bases and they'll snap really easy. That helps with overall alignment. So that's a technique I use quite often. And of course, when you're trying to replicate something and you've figured out you've made a mistake, just delete it and gather up your pieces and move on and do it again. There's a lot of that, particularly when you're building something and you're trying to replicate something, or you're building something and you're trying to do a new design, or you want everything to fit just right, and you're like, I should have done the following. And so in this case, I'm looking at pictures. That's why I pause sometimes in video that I've taken and realized that where I'm currently standing is a raised platform. And I did not account for that 1 block high raised area. And so now I've got to do that. And I just noticed that on the pictures. So because these walls here are 5 high instead of the normal 4 high, I'm going to use the individual column pieces to create the columns. Normally I like using as large of a piece as I possibly can. It's just easier that way. Also remember to put in the pieces like that column top before you obscure it. It just makes life easier. Because once it's obscured, you got to get a different perspective to get it to click. So it occurs to me that I never got to see whether or not I have a tight connection. So I dropped a couple of platforms, and I want to make sure that we have no gap between the wall and these bases that I'm using to raise the wall up to be 5 high. Now those bases aren't in the game anymore if I didn't mention that earlier, which is unfortunate since they're still used in all the models, even the new ones. Part of doing this video, I wanted to prove to the devs, I don't think it was the pieces that had anything to do with their issue. It was the volume of the pieces. Interesting that they're yellow. I've determined that over time that if you can, put up as many of the walls first and then add your floor later. It's hard to work that way sometimes. Oops. Sometimes you just destroy something and then you got to pay attention to what it says you're destroying, because sometimes it determines you're looking at something you're really not. There we go. Oh. I just noticed that there's a gap now, which we don't see on the other side. So I have to figure that out, because leaving that gap will be detrimental to the build. I probably should have put in the floor after. I can't stress enough how important it is to make sure everything is flat and even and solidly connected. Slight errors compound the taller and larger you build in the game. Unlike games where structural integrity don't count and you can just put stuff in midair, this game actually cares about it. So here I have a column that wasn't properly set for some reason. And then I realized, oh, it's because all this that I just did for the second time isn't the right height either. And so now I've got to redo all that. That's what I get for trying to be fancy. Now some of those pieces I just used are not in the game anymore. Sometimes it's easier to start at the top and work your way down. That way you can get the top alignment level and the bottom piece will sink appropriately into the floor area. But the more I think about this, I should have done the floor last. It just makes it easier to work with the floor in place. You don't have to build as much scaffold or platforms. See, now that aligned and pushed the piece down into the appropriate level. So here I'm just paying attention to the top, so the tops remain flat. Tops of everything remain flat, whether it's a 1 block high or a 5 block high. You notice that if everything is square and level and things just snap into place. Also, if there's less obscuring stuff like the floor, it's much easier to work in. So I have to raise this platform, um, but to do that I need something to support the floor. And so I always like putting in a little bracing, or, you know, trying to lay it out is not always easy. These are equivalent of what would be in construction called joists, or, you know, that are in the floor supporting the floor. Don't want the platform as big as it was. I'll make it a little smaller. I like filling the gaps, but sometimes it's not worth it. Oops, that was just a fat finger mistake. I am rotating it for aesthetic purposes only, the floor there. Like mixing it up a little bit sometimes. Now I gotta remember which piece this wall is, or this window. It's hitting the, yeah, gotta get the right angle because it was hitting the floor. Now, the block used um, is not available, so I'm trying to figure out how to handle that corner. What will look appealing as well as make the most sense. By placing the floor first before I try to put in the column, I can judge the alignment easier. And the little flooring snapped in place pretty nicely when there's nothing around it for it to get pulled towards in this automated snapping. I wish we could hold down a key to stop the snapping temporarily. That would be really nice. That little line, I'm not going to get better than that. Alright, now I can see how to support it from the bottom. Also going to look at the pictures to make sure I'm doing it right. So by placing the top first, it helped me lock in the bottom. Also, sometimes putting in the woodwork, this lattice work, helps to align things too. I haven't done a strict test yet, but it seems that the lattice work does provide support now. Or at least that's my observation. I'm just trying different things out to see what it looks like. See, this goes a little too far, unfortunately. Yeah. The pieces used in the game, the thinner lattice work, just don't exist. I wish we had cross beams that were 1, 2, and then of course we have the one that's 3 wide, and I wish we had a big one, a thick one and a small one. I'm using the railing for alignment. Close enough. There is no corner stair for the wood. Couple railings so OSHA doesn't get mad at me. Pretty close replica. I don't know why that's yellow though. Just trying to get the right alignment. Yeah, pretty nice. And everything on the top is nice and flat. Don't worry about the railing, that's fine. That won't interfere with the walls. I just realized looking at the pictures that the plain walls on the outside were incorrect. So I will have to replace them. So you can overlay tiles, though if you do it too much, the system does get a little confused, particularly like here, what's in the foreground or not. Um, Even imperceptible alignment can be a trigger, so you're going to have to wiggle the pieces to get them in place. Sometimes you'll have to destroy what's in the background uh, in order to get it to align. Like that piece down there at the bottom is poking through, but the top piece is not. And so figuring that out is just a matter of trial and error. So here I'm replacing on the outside the detail that I destroyed when I placed the wooden, and I want just a slight crack toward me, so it doesn't interfere with that paneling that I just put in. Once you can get one of these lined up, once you get one of these lined up, the others will click into place pretty easily. And the fact that it has a top and bottom ridge will hide the fact that it's slightly offset as to not interfere with one another. There we go. Also, I noticed I forgot the detail here. So need to change out a few things to closely match the original model. Comparing the images now. The added detail here isn't really for support, but it was in the original model, so I'm going to carry it forward. Alright, now we're going to put on the roof. I left my rope, so I'm going to have to use the old tried and true platform method. And I always like starting in a corner if at all possible, so I'm going to have to I like to make sure that it's solidly on there, that there's no gap, but not pressed in. And if I've got a small gap like that, I like overlapping it so all the little pieces aren't always on the same side, if I can. So as I just looked at my reference, I made a mistake on the walls. Those walls were part of the granite roof pieces that have wood inlaid in them. So I have to undo this and put those up. So I like these roof pieces. They are strong. They provide good structural integrity. They have a nice look and feel to them. Um, Unfortunately, there's no small one. The small one doesn't quite line up like the rest of them. And these are sometimes much easier to place from the top down. Now there is a corner unit which you can sometimes use, but this model does not use the corner unit. The corner unit is all granite. This is granite with a wood inlay. And see, I'll show you what I mean here. This piece sticks out. It doesn't have the same snap profile. It's called a gap filler. I I've used it as an arch before, but it is useless as a roof piece. Um, and I tried several different ways to do it here, but then realized it overhung on the other side. So it's just easier to use two pieces side by side and overlap them a little bit, or use the granite one. Here I was trying to get it to snap differently, but I couldn't line it up. That's the way to do it. You just use the plain granite one, you overlap it a little bit, and you never see it. Of course, now I'll have to fix that corner and the outside. So this model has a base around the outside as a decorative piece. So I'm going to mirror the base I put down halfway up the walls, if you remember, same base. I don't think this one's in the game anymore. It's only in Old Worlds. I want the inside to fit flush, which means I'm going to use the adamant. And I probably could use a girder type system here, but I'm just making it solid. Very easy now that they changed the snapping on the adamant. That one's really having a problem with the snap. Now we'll finish the border, that base border. This area has a roof. I'm going to try a different style of roof, these corner pieces. I've never used them before. This isn't on the original model. Sometimes this model doesn't have a roof or it's embedded in the ceiling, but I'm going to try it here. Yeah, it's interesting. Now I'll just put a top on it, chimney. Ah. Now I'm just experimenting with the roofs to see what looks best. Put a little chimney on top. Wish we had the same chimney pieces. That piece is useful. It's all over the place as a pedestal or a chimney. I wish they'd put that in the game. Now I gotta get down with no rope. Oops. Oh, I had rope. Oh, good. Now remember, you can fall from the maximum height of a rope and a ladder and not take damage, but anything over that, you start to take damage. Might as well fix this before I'm done. Since I'm already up here making sure that everything is in place and in alignment and any missing pieces that I may have destroyed on accident or purpose and forgotten about, it's easier to done when it's up here. And then of course destroy this as I go. That way I'm not down on the ground hitting something and deleting it when I shouldn't and then have to put it back. Just like on a real construction site, now you got to go and pick up all the nails and screws and pieces of scrap and police the area. Going to give it all a final inspection. Oh, it's hard to build something that you're trying to replicate and is very complex and not miss something. Especially when you're trying to piece it together and fix it and figure it out as you go. Ooh, oops. While I have it open, it'll be easier to access like this. Then I'll put the window back. Even with the minor issues during this build of getting things to snap in place, the build system is actually hugely improved. Look at that. What a wonderful replica that you can put anywhere to match the decor that's currently in the game. It's not 100% perfect, and I certainly would like the missing pieces brought back. Well, the pieces that were never in the game, I'd like them, and the pieces that were taken away, I'd like to get back for certain. Or yeah, because this world, because it's a Gen 1 version 1 world, will have all those pieces, and some of those aren't available in the current game. But with the changes of the build system, it is not the pieces that's the problem. Look at that. Even in the back, it looks good. Hmm. Inside. Now I've logged in and out a couple of times and I edited that out. And as I've done other buildings, um, this thing's like a rock. There's no issues. So I'll just pick up the scrap, put a nice little hearth in there, one of the small hearths. Oh, well, I don't have materials, but it's always good to run along and hop and auto loot and make sure you've got the stuff in case something's trapped in a wall. Not that it'll do anything, but a resource is a resource. Ah, almost forgot the ceiling here. Oh, nope. of course, the last couple will have to fight me because that's just the way it is. It really wants to hang down. I think I'll probably let that go. Alright, cleaning up. Always remove your scaffolding. Huh, I guess too much for it to figure out. That is pretty. And very close to the original. Get rid of those. I was using it to temporarily when I logged out. Um, Keep my stuff here. One last look around. And of course, DoorDash is here. So thank you all for watching. Oh, knew there was another one. I hope you enjoyed this and happy building. Thank you for watching Mereak Firmaxe Rebuilds Moria. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe below. Episode 7, Building the Ale House from Scratch.